Welcome to the Civic Hub. Civic Hub is a shared community space for grassroots and small nonprofit organizations working to make lives better for everyone in Waterloo region. Partner organizations come from a range of fields: environmental justice, democratic reform, arts and culture, anti-poverty, anti-racism, human rights, ethno-cultural and newcomer support, technology, peace, nonviolence, spirituality, and well-being. Today, we welcome one of our partners to the Civic Hub. Aleksandra, welcome to the Civic Hub.
Thank you.
Tell us where you're from, what organization you're with, and how that involves the Civic Hub.
I work with the Social Development Center and came to the region in 2011. Since then, we were aware in the community that small groups, grassroots groups, resident-led groups do not have places to meet that are free, affordable, and actually understand the values. They come from being autonomous, having big aspirations and dreams and passion. And it took us a bit of years, right?
Mhm.
And Civic Hub opened doors last summer in June.
Mm-hmm. Social Development Center is certainly the foundational partner for the Civic Hub. I have to confess that I was involved from what I thought was right at the beginning, back as early as 2017, I think, during a KW Peace meeting, KW Peace being another partner for the Civic Hub. And slowly through many years, we worked into the community, got community involved, and brought together the Civic Hub. So Civic Hub is hosted at the Social Development Center.
Yes, Social Development Center has a wonderful landlord and partner, St. John the Evangelist Anglican Church, downtown Kitchener. St. John still stands for the kitchen, right?
Yes,
And
absolutely.
it was, I think, 4 decades ago when that dream came into being. And today it's another third space, not only providing sustenance to people in the community, but as well another meeting space, different in color and look. But St. John Church understood the need that we tried to fill in the community. And yes, where we rent, now Civic Hub has an event space in the lower parish hall. It has a classroom, workspace, couple of meeting rooms. People, even who are not religious, say it is a blessing.
You said third space. What are all those spaces?
Well, some of, I think most known are created by the Working Center in our community in downtown, right? Queen Street Commons, many groups still and will meet there. And some of them, if for whatever reason they need maybe a quieter space, may find us. But there is a number of locations. We're just a part of that universe. There are some of the commercial coffee shops where you can book meetings. You do not pay, drink your coffee, right? There is beautiful new space. They call it community living room, Merit Collective, right? So there are nonprofits, commercial spaces, and some of the community centers now do have, through all the advocacy we've done together, some of the community centers open their doors. But the vision that we collectively, as you said, KW Peace, Divest Waterloo, KW Transitions, and a number of other groups, we want it to be a collective space. Those small groups would need to grow, get stronger, more autonomous, but at the end of the day, all they want is to collaborate, share resources, support each other, cross-promote, and have conversations that we may not have around the dinner table, or conversations that would bring people from really different points of view together in same space. So hence third space, not only outside of family and the work, it's a third space in terms of ideas.
Yes. Yes. The ideas that what sort of work is the Social Development Center itself working on?
Social Development Center has been an incubator over 5 decades, actually, for a
Mhm.
number of initiatives that turned out to be pillars of our community, such as Waterloo Region Community Legal Services, Meals on Wheels, One Roof, right?
Mhm.
Started by concerned citizens or people that recognize the need um, or a gap in the fabric of our relationships. They come together and pursue a vision. So we have been incubator, we have been supporting bottom up and grassroots connections for a very long time. We continue to do that through broader networks, collaborating with Immigration Partnership, Wellbeing Waterloo Region, and a number of other initiatives. But our root is in stories and contributions from people who are directly impacted, as some would say, by choices or decisions, policy, legislation, budgets. And when we do research, when we propose policy changes, we do it with people directly impacted. So that is the core of the research that we do. Some would call it participatory, but it is far more than that. And community information. We
Mhm.
have been keepers of community information on social services also for a number of decades, 4 decades, and we continue to provide referrals. We continue to offer places where we can share useful information, such as free tax clinics, assistance to people when they want to apply for Ontario Electricity Support Program. So there is a number of ways that we still provide information and referral, even though we're no longer an official community information center Waterloo Region. So those are some of the things that come together really nicely in our work.
Yes. As a repository for the community information, or as a search engine of the old school, that's no longer so much the case, is it?
Or the human interface to Googling,
Yeah.
right? How many calls we would still get every day.
Oh.
Can you please search this one for me on the internet? We forget that technology has its realm and that people still live on the margins.
So there are people without the technology to make use of it in the first place. And then there might be the organizations that are providing what they think is support have done it in such a complicated fashion that the people that they're hoping to service aren't able to make use of their services, which is where the Social Development Center comes in.
Seems so.
Yeah. As probably the primary, the foundational partner in the Civic Hub, what does the Social Development Center provide? Space, obviously.
Space, absolutely. There is a reminder that we used to be a walk-in community resource center.
Okay. That's before my time.
No, we were still a community resource center with public access to computers.
Okay.
When I came 2012, I think it changed 2016 actually, that we
Okay.
were no longer walk-in space where people could, drink a cup of coffee, tea, read newspapers,
Okay.
use computers, sit together. And someone reminded me.
That was aligned with one of the major relocations for what was then the Social Planning Council of KW.
Yes, from 151, another to be collocation hub, right, at YW, now Waterloo Region, right, on 151 Frederick, where we really enjoyed being surrounded with other agencies. But then we were no longer able to support walk-in, this third space for people just to be and do what they need to do at no cost. So at the fundraiser for Roblero Morales family that was hosted last evening, longtime collaborator reminded me, said, well, Now you're again, it was a dream for Trudy Bone, who was the long-term
Yes.
executive director. You're again a resource space, a resource center. And it is true, as we would open Civic Hub Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, whole day, and it's doors open. So some people would find us, maybe, as I said, drink a cup of coffee, read newspapers, see what's on the walls. What's the latest storyboarding exercise that we all participated in together, put all the Post-its and ideas around affordable housing or social assistance, and come and be.
So what we see on the walls is largely put there by you and Todd and Leslie, the staff members for Social Development Center, coming from the partner groups, coming from the groups that make use of the space, that contribute to the space. How does that work? How does the partnership with the Civic Hub work?
Partnership happens all the time. There are certain, days in a month when we would put forward an idea for a simple thing as a coffee hour, partners coffee hour, and invite everyone to come and be at the same time, face to face, at the same space, learn about each other, see where the potential for connection is. But actually, multiple gatherings would happen in the Civic Hub, especially in the evenings. And almost every time there are multiple events or meetings happening, there is a connection or two where partnership grows on its own. So, it's maybe best approach not to impose a structure too much and let it happen organically, because it does. Because every single group, and you read the scope of backgrounds of people and grassroots that come together, they all have such broad vision what this community needs, and that one cannot do without the other. They thrive when there are, people come from very different areas of work or things that they're doing. It happens a lot organically, and the role of the Social Development Center actually is to focus on sustainability, right?
Sustainability for the other groups as well as the community as a whole?
For other groups as much as we can, but if we do not have our space together, we have to plan for 21. We received seed funding from Heritage Ministry, Community Capacity and Anti-Racism Work. And that seed funding is not, in perpetuity. It will come to an end. So besides the 25, 26 partner groups that we have, there is a list of more than 100 entities, other hubs, such as Conrad Grebel, right?
Yes.
Artshine, Gockel 44. There is a number of players who have us on their radar, want to be informed what is going on, want to wait it out a bit maybe and see how, grounded we are. And we have to nurture those connections as they are we are part of that universe, broader universe, and it would potentially, through conversations and connections, we will together be able to figure out what comes next after the seed funding that brought us all together in this wonderful way when it runs out. So that's major role for Social Development Center in 2020.
Because although there's no cost to the organizations making use of the Civic Hub, it is not free.
No, it's not, and currently covered by funding from Heritage Ministry.
That's right. What is the arrangement with St. John's Church? How did they get on board?
I think that they were, in a sense, on board since the first conversation they had with Trudy in mid-2017, right? When we were looking for a potential landlord, having to move at the end of 2017, when Trinity United, a wonderful partner as well, they sold the church where
Yes.
we were all in. And that was the idea that I recognized from the get-go. We planned together in different ways, and it was clear that they see themselves more as a partner than a landlord. And when all of us partners started a bit losing steam sometime
Yes.
in 2019, they stepped in and said, well, you know what? For other hubs and other places to recognize you, you have to be a hub. So we opened the door during summer with our partner
Yeah.
without actually having to pay right for
Yes.
the rent, and then we were truly hoping the rent would come, and seed funding did come.
Now, I happened to be at that meeting and saw multiple of the partner organizations that are better funded than others stepping right up and offering to pay rent for the space. So it's been a wonderful collaboration in that regard. But a lot of the organizations that need a third space aren't able to make use of many of the other third spaces in the community. Someplace like 44 Gaukel, for example, might be available for a small arts event, but not necessarily for sustainable, ongoing, long-term occupancy for a group that needs a home base third space. And so the Civic Hub is filling that gap. There's no obligation to buy food, as would be the case if they're meeting at restaurants or cafes. There's no requirement from organizations to pay user fees, which is well out of reach of many of these partner organizations. And so the Civic Hub has stepped in, filled that gap, made space available to all these communities. And now, as a result, as you mentioned, some of the other third spaces in the community have recognized that and lowered fees, eliminated fees altogether in some cases. So it's the Civic Hub has been an excellent influence on the entire community at large.
Thank you for filling me in, because obviously I'm too busy to listen sometimes about the wonderful things that actually do have impact. Yeah.
Well, I like to see it as cause and effect. It may be entirely unrelated, but I'll take credit. We'll take credit. Civic Hub will take credit for having improved the community overall. Social Development Center has hosted a number of other interest groups over the years. Can you expand a little on that?
Interest groups,
Thinking
mostly we call them lived experience
groups.
Yes, there is one major or a couple of major interests that lived experience groups have if they are persons with disabilities. It would be overall accessibility, physical and non-physical, for their members, awareness of low-income voices, as you mentioned, as well. It is anti-poverty and a dialogue, policy dialogue. So they remain monthly forum with our support. I think we started supporting awareness of low-income voices in 2017. And yes, every month still, they open up the doors to other individuals or groups interested to sit around the table with decision maker or two and talk about the most impactful issues, from transit to housing, right? And that is truly important. Renters Educating Networking Together started meeting as of 2018 with us, and our collaboration with Community Legal Services, where they were meeting before, continues. So it is a universe that grows larger and larger every day. And some of those groups, actually, because they're aware of each other, they have been meeting through Social Development Center for a long time. They're starting to percolate ideas about tighter connections and alliances, and how to express what they have to say together. And thanks to them, we host even drop-ins around important issues, particularly now affordability and accessibility housing crisis. And weekly meetings, people drop in, they share stories, they feed into Homes for All radio show that started yesterday. They work with theater producer Heather Mancheri on a forum theater production. a lot of good things to come.
Yeah, yeah. Do you have a quick rundown of significant upcoming events that are specifically related to Social Development Center?
Social Development Center?
Hmm.
Well, yes, annual general meeting.
I was kind of hinting at that, yes.
Yeah, so for definitely for the 2 months, March and April, it is the big rush with tax clinics. Have to say that is one of the major beginning of the year initiatives and collaboration with other, again, tax clinics, free tax clinics in the community, and that connection is tighter and renewed as well. But for now, most of the efforts are to support events in the Civic Hub. Conversations started this February completely from ground up about anti-racism and how we work together from the grassroots without being directed or
Yes.
told how things need to happen. And it's about accountability, right? So that is one of the initiatives we started for the partners with Merit Collective. We are also having conversations once a month. It's the last Thursday, dialogue across socioeconomic differences or across class, which is something that people are really surprised to have and very happy to participate in. And as I said, building up to April 7th, annual general meeting. And usually our theme emerges from months of conversations and contacts we would have prior to the date. And this time it is, what is true possibility for connection between tech sector that we take so much pride in, we invest so much in, we get a lot from, but social justice work in itself not necessarily is on the radar of
Not so much business development here,
no.
but
And we would like to explore that to learn from what is potentially already happening in the region. We know about bits and pieces. We collaborate with Blueprint, University of Waterloo. There is a number of local grassroots tech firms. You would know more about that. And there is last collaboration we had is with Zeitspace and one of the partners, Mark, who shared storyboarding process for software design and development and user user testing and storyboarding creation, which applies so nicely to social justice grassroots work. And I unpacked so much more than I expected to find there, especially how do we understand and focus to do what is absolutely necessary without expending all our energy, and it was really useful. So those would be some of the conversations we were in together on April 7th. We're starting with a business meeting at 6 p.m. and then 6:30 to 7:30 it would be conversations, table, small group conversations, as we used to know and enjoy when Trudy was around. And in that spirit, we will as well learn from each other then.
Yeah. And you mentioned the Merit Collective. Actually, a third space of their own. They have the causerie out on Victoria Street, I think, corner of Victoria and Park.
Yes, community living room.
Yes. So being a partner of the Civic Hub, we can collaborate together on presenting events, and certainly hope to have people from the Merit Collective, Stephanie Rozek, come in and speak to us as well. Hope to have people from ALIVE, Awareness of Low-Income Voices, come in and talk to us, from RENT, from Human Rights and Disabilities Group as well. All the partners will have their chance at the microphone to tell us what they're all about and how they make use of the third space at the Civic Hub.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Any summation you'd like to give us? How do we get a hold of you, for example? Where is the Social Development Center? Where is the Civic Hub?
Civic Hub is on the corner of Duke Street and Water Street North, and the entrance is on Duke Street. So we always have to have this very long explanation telling people how to find us, as the actual address for St. John Church is 23 Water Street North. But our entrance is the only entrance there on Duke. And Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it's a drop-in the whole day. Well, that is probably the easiest way to reach us. If not, there is, of course, website and phone number, and
the website is
civichub.wr.org.
Right. And the phone number. How do you get a hold of the Civic Hub through phone?
519-579-3800.
Right. And that's the phone number for both the Civic Hub and the Social Development Center Waterloo region.
Once you're there, they all have an extension, thanks to Bob Jonkman. But yes, that is the main number, and people can find us that way.
That's great. I think I'm going to thank you very much for welcoming us all to the Civic Hub, for making the space available, for having done all the work in getting us up and running and having this space available to the community. Thank you, Aleksandra Petrovic, for coming in today.
Thank you and welcome.
This is Welcome to the Civic Hub. We're running down the upcoming events in a short little bit. Our next guest is Peter Jantzi from WRNonviolence, who'll be with us in just a couple of minutes.
This is CKMS 102.7 FM in Waterloo Region, radiowaterloo.ca on the web.
Welcome to the Civic Hub. My name is Bob Jonkman. Upcoming events on the Civic Hub in the next week or so. On Tuesday, March the 10th at 5 p.m. there will be a housing drop-in and theater project at 5 p.m. On the same day, a little bit later in the evening at 7 p.m., we'll have the Community Co-op Kitchen Meeting, both of which are taking place at the Civic Hub, 23 Water Street North. But come to the doors on Duke Street, push the button for the Social Development Center, and someone will let you into those things, into that meeting space. On Wednesday, March the 11th, is a meeting of the Disability and Human Rights Group, which Aleksandra just mentioned. That takes place at 1:30 p.m. in the afternoon. On Thursday, March the 12th, we have KW Peace with a potluck dinner meeting starting at 6 p.m. If you're any social justice, peace, nonviolence, environmental group in the Kitchener-Waterloo area, please come down, come join us, tell us what events are happening in your neck of the woods, so we can coordinate ourselves and not double book ourselves. That's 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Thursday, March the 12th. At the same time, sharing the space is Extinction Rebellion, who have their weekly meeting on Thursday, 6:30 p.m., where they'll be working on upcoming events that they're planning, possibly in other areas of KW. And finally, on Saturday, March 14th, we have a language class with the Sudanese community taking place at 11:45 on Saturday. Back in a minute with Peter Jantzi from WRNonviolence. Welcome to the Civic Hub, to Peter Jantzi and Rene Sellier, who are members of WRNonviolence. WRNonviolence has been meeting in Kitchener-Waterloo for some 10, 15 years now. Peter, tell us about WRNonviolence.
Thanks, Bob. I can't tell you about all 15 years because I've only been around for 1+ years, 1.5. But Matt Albrecht has an invitation put out to people to, if you can answer non-violently this question, what kind of a world would you like to live in? Come to Tuesday nights at Queen Street Commons. Help us plan that future. Let's work together, making all kinds of projects. And so, of course, they've been involved in lots of different kinds of projects over the years. Maybe the big one has been the Nonviolence Day in the Park, which I guess has had different names over the past 15 years, but essentially is the same. Lots of community groups come down, have the opportunity to show their projects, talk with people, engage in all those kinds of interesting one-on-ones.
Yeah.
And there's kids area put aside for kids to play games.
Full confession, I'm involved with the WRNonviolence group as well. So,
and you could probably speak to more of those years than I could, for sure.
I've really only been helping out with the Day in the Park and WRNonviolence since about 2015. So I'm fairly new at it too.
Do you know what year it is? It's like 2020.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say that this year's Day in the Park is on July 18.
That's right. That's right.
Just in case somebody's going to
And
put that in their calendar.
Registration for exhibitors will be opening up shortly.
Yeah, good idea. We'll get the email out to them and they'll respond. So one of the other projects that WRNonviolence likes to do is forums. And that one is coming up. The next one is coming up on Tuesday at the Queen Street Commons again, 6:30 to 8:30.
And the theme is?
The refugee experience. We'll have a number of speakers presenting. We'll have some small table discussions.
Yeah.
And perhaps come up with some action plan for us as individuals or as groups, whoever may attend.
And then a follow-up in a couple of weeks after that.
Right, to help sort of organize that or give it some direction.
Right.
Yeah.
How'd you get involved?
Well, ever so long ago, Matt and I were involved in the humanist movement. I became less active while Matt continued on with lots of projects. The humanist movement itself went through some changes and is in the way it was, not organized the way it was before it all. And so Matt and some people thought about what they were going to do, and they came up with this idea of inviting people to come and try to express nonviolence in their world, in their lives, and by doing it in as public and open a way as possible. Right. So I kind of knew that Matt had been doing that of course, the Trump era hit, and I could see people like scrambling, friends, losing their references, kind of. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know what was going to happen. They thought the best thing to do would maybe be a political answer. And if you're a political person, then that's a interesting avenue. But that may not be the place for everybody to put their energy. So I had to think back to some of the things that Matt and the group had been doing. And I thought, that might be interesting to go down and check that out. It would put a little bit of substance, perhaps, to some of the things that I have been saying with people that have been looking for what to do. And so that's basically, I came down to check out the people, the meetings, and to see how it was going. And
You haven't been able to get rid of you since.
And you haven't been able to get rid of me since. And it's been very interesting. The group has group dynamics like every other group, and it has changed in like kind of substantially, it seems to me, over the year plus that I've been involved. People come and go. They have certain things that they feel more passionate about, so they get a little bit more involved when those are the themes, and a little bit less. And that's really interesting that it actually provides a forum, an avenue for people to do that, because everybody has their life, right?
Yes.
It's busy. Yes. It's this, it's that, it's focused, it's not focused. It's, oh yeah, all right, let's do that.
And things get done regardless.
Yeah. Well, and there's opportunity for people to, at the funniest of times in their own lives, to reconnect back with some positive direction.
We have on the line with us as well, Rene Sellier, a newer member of WRNonviolence. Rene, welcome to the Civic Hub.
Hi.
Hi, Rene.
So, Rene, what brings you to WRNonviolence and, as a result, to the Civic Hub?
Okay. Well, I was looking for an organization to volunteer, and I joined this one to see what's out there and what's needed.
And why the WRNonviolence group in particular? There are so many volunteer organizations out there. How did you, we knew each other before you joined, and so I'm hoping I had a good influence on you and encourage you to come out.
Yes, you did. You did encourage me to come out, and I'm just a new member. I just joined less than a year ago, I think. And so what I like about it, I get to meet other groups and learn about what other groups are doing as well. And so you can participate in other things as well. So it's kind of like, if you don't know what maybe is going on or where to go, it's a great place to start.
Yeah, it's certainly a way to make connections in the community.
Yeah.
And the Civic Hub itself. I've seen you at the Civic Hub.
Yes.
Yeah. What were you at? Tell us about the event.
I was there for a fundraiser, a potluck, and one time, and a fundraiser for the Morales family. That is, they're hoping to stay their deportation. It's a Guatemalan family, a young family, mother with 6 kids. The father's already been deported, but the mother's trying to appeal to stay in Canada and hopefully bring the dad back. So there was a fundraiser last night. It was very well attended. There was a lovely, it was a really cool a movie that was shown. I'm going to remember the name, In the Shadows of the Borders, which was quite informative. And then they had a what do you call it, a bid for items, and so it was lots of fun, and a lovely family. And so we're hoping to get signatures in the coming weeks to hopefully petition so that they could stay.
Yeah, so this will be a petition that goes to the members of Parliament to have them create a compassionate grounds, an exception to the deportation.
Yes.
Yeah. This certainly seems to mesh with the idea of nonviolence. Yeah. Peter, can you tell us the definition for nonviolence as WRNonviolence would have it?
Our working definition is basically that which objectifies a human being.
Is violence.
That's violence.
Yes.
Yes.
And so
What is nonviolence?
what is nonviolence?
Well, I think we'll spend the rest of our lives trying to answer that, trying to hone that. Basically, it must entail like some kind of respect, some kind of being able to empathize, being able to see the other person, the human in the other person. When you look in there, you see they have experiences very similar to your own, hopes, fears, dreams, frustrations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how would you like to be treated?
As an object.
No.
Yes? No. So,
No. And then so
sorry, my question was completing your phrase there. Who would like to be treated as an object? Nobody would like to be treated as an object. And so this is where the objectification, lack of objectification, elimination of objectification comes from as a means to nonviolence.
And I think it's interesting to think about it as not necessarily an overnight conversion, but like a direction that you intentionally plan to go on. Like, you're not just all of a sudden this person that treats everybody as a human being. We live in a world where there's lots of institutional or structural forms of discrimination and violence,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't all of a sudden be free and clear of those. But you can intentionally try to find a way to find out what those are, discover what those are, find out ways that will help people talk about that, raise awareness, education, and to sort of keep on resolving to make that commitment to go in that direction as individuals and to bring along people
that seems to be the thrust of WRNonviolence as well. There's no large overarching campaign to hit the entire community at once. This is very much a person-to-person effort.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If we can instill the principles of nonviolence, the respect for others in everyone as individuals, then comprehensively we'll have achieved nonviolence for the entire community.
Well, I like to think of the work of person to person as reweaving the social fabric one stitch at a time kind of thing, but to leave open the idea that there may be a critical mass of some kind, that there may be some the sum of the parts is not, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts.
Yes.
I was trying to think of, so that adds up.
Right.
It keeps on moving and growing.
And that gets done at your Tuesday night meetings.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. So hopefully we're reaching out to a slightly larger group, coming up with a Viewpoints Forum on Tuesday at 7 p.m. Queen Street Commons, where we'll be looking at the one issue of obstacles that refugees may face in our community. Our community has been very welcoming. I have to admit that we've received a large number of people who have come in and made their homes here in KW.
And for me, to a large extent, it'll be a learning, because I'm not aware of all the people that we've brought in. You read the news, but you don't know it, and there's better ways to know it. And there's lots of people in the community that have been very active with lots of efforts and a lot of good points of view on the thing. So it'll be very interesting, I think, to hear their
perspectives.
Yes.
Yeah. How does this relate to Civic Hub? Why is this forum not taking place at the Civic Hub, for example? Is it to do with the visibility of the Queen Street Commons area?
Yes, I think, again, partly it's historical. The kind of public activities that WRNonviolence has been doing has been done at Queen Street Commons because it is accessible. It's such an interesting cafe.
Yeah.
It's like so tolerant, so open.
As Aleksandra Petrovic mentioned, it's a third space for many communities.
Right. And so and we can actually book a little bit of a space in the back, so they know we're there. They have some of the technical, like the sound system and whatnot. That allow us to do
WRNonviolence
that.
puts on a movie night on the International Day of Nonviolence, October the 2nd.
Right.
And we've used that space to view the movies, have discussion afterwards.
Right. So I think people that are there are tolerant of the fact that there may be something else going on, and we won't necessarily disturb them, or they're certainly welcome to join in with whatever it is we're doing.
That's right.
And it is, like you said, a much more public and open space. So people walking past the street, somebody coming in for a coffee or whatever, can see it and be welcome and all that. The Civic Hub doesn't have quite that open accessibility with the location that they have right now. They can buzz the buzzer, but there's no walk by. You have to intentionally want to be there, and then you know how to get in. But there's no public sort of.
So for the Civic Hub, it depends on the advertising, the promotion that the individual participants do. So when now, apparently that must have been good for last night, or the word of mouth, the connections, right? Because it was well attended. So it's not that you don't get well attended events there necessarily. It's just for us, it was that sort of public. Right. So WRNonviolence has been at the Civic Hub.
Oh yes, yeah. But not, well, actually, I don't believe we've done a public event there, but we've done an internal event. So we did some technical things, got our computer files sorted out, passwords.
And I think we'll be doing that again in a couple of weeks, because that's yet another function of the Civic Hub, is not just for the public performance aspects of things, the theater presentations, the art galleries that I hope will be there at some point. The workspaces for the groups can also be held at the Civic Hub. So for us, I think it's paperwork and administrivia. But I've seen other groups, KWR Time, for example, have an art build there where they're creating posters and whatnot. Shared space. They're actually there at the same time that WRNonviolence was doing their administrivia in the other corner of the space.
Right. Yeah, and it's great in that sense that you don't need the whole space. It's a fairly large room. And while you're doing your things, other groups can be doing their things too.
So Rene, you were there for both of the Roblero Morales events, the potluck dinner and the fundraiser. How does a space work for something like that? Is it a good spot for that?
Oh, it's terrific. It's a nice big space. It has a kitchen, actually, and lovely that way, and lots of chairs and tables. So chairs go out for the movie. And yeah, I thought it was a great space.
I know that having the kitchen available for things certainly allows food to become a focus of some of the meetings that we're having there. The KW Peace meeting coming up in a couple of weeks on the 12th of March is entirely focused around a potluck dinner. It's a business meeting, but it's also a potluck dinner. And in fact, I think the potluck dinner is probably the more important part of the meeting because it gets people talking to each other.
Well, yeah, and Bob brought some amazing lentil bowls. Everybody was raving about them.
I'll have to bring some more.
Have you heard the old saying that, if I can't dance at the revolution, like I don't want to sort of participate? Well, this is like, if you can't eat at the revolution, I can't.
Yes. I've had people tell me that eating is a social activity as well as one for sustenance. It's a social activity. And if we can't eat at the events that we're holding for social justice events, then we're really missing out on, I hate to call it a tool for enabling social justice, but we're missing out on one way of facilitating the communication between people.
Eating is really interesting. Like you think it's social, like ask any of your moms, right? Like, have more.
Yes.
Have more.
Yeah. So coming up in the next little while for WRNonviolence, we have Tuesday, March the 10th, 7 p.m. Queen Street Commons, viewpoints with issues experienced by refugees. And then after that, we have another Viewpoints Forum in April.
Yes, 28th, I believe, the
I
date.
think that's our tentative date. It's fairly well established, I think, and that is Viewpoints on Incarceration.
On incarceration.
So that'll be a little bit heavier topic, I think, but hopefully we'll
Well,
shed some light.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it depends on what kinds of experiences are revealed at the refugee forum. I can't imagine any of them. Some of them are like not light, they're very severe, with more being produced. I don't know if you can say that, like with the action that's happening in Idlib and Turkey opening their borders and letting all kinds of refugees out into Europe and all of that. So, yeah. And then, but incarceration, very, very strange kind of dehumanizing circumstance for that we perpetuate, and to what end, so.
Yeah. And then in between, we'll have another administrative type workshop for WRNonviolence, and that's in preparation for Day in the Park.
Okay.
Day in the Park is probably the largest event that WRNonviolence puts on, and so requires lots of planning, and we'll be doing some of that in March. I think March 26th, I think, was a date that was proposed for that. Day in the Park itself takes place on July the 18th, Saturday, all day Saturday from noon to about 5 p.m. Yeah. Exhibitors, both commercial exhibitors and local community group exhibitors are very, very welcome to come and attend. Do you know the pricing for that, or should we just wait until the registration is available?
I don't know the pricing for sure, so we'll surprise
registration should be open in about a week's time.
Okay.
Great. So how do we get a hold of people at WRNonviolence?
There is a website, WRNonviolence.org. And I think there's other social medias, but I don't know the addresses.
I think very likely they all have WRNonviolence in the name.
In them somewhere. Yeah. And then, of course, come down to Queen Street Commons Tuesday evenings and ask for us by name.
Yes. Generally sit in the front, by the front door on Queen Street.
Yeah.
And, you'll see us there, notebooks in front, passionately discussing the things of nonviolence.
And others things, yeah.
Rene, do you have any upcoming events that would be suitable for the Civic Hub?
No, not right now, but I would like to give a shout out to Our Time, who also uses that space.
Yes, KWR Time. Yeah, our Time KW.
Our Time.
Yeah, an environmental group, largely composed of young people, because the young people say it is our time for action on climate change. Yeah. So they'll be at the Civic Hub again in the near future as well, and hopefully they'll be here on Welcome to the Civic Hub, the radio show that introduces us to all the different partners.
Yes, and they arranged the fundraiser for the Morales family.
Oh, they were the organizers behind that particular initiative.
Yeah. I should have mentioned them.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Rene Sellier.
Thank you,
Peter Jantzi.
You're welcome. Yeah. Thanks, Rene.
Thanks.
See you Tuesday.
Welcome, both of you, to the Civic Hub. Have a couple more events to talk about in just a few minutes. Welcome to the Civic Hub. One of the Civic Hub partners, the Merit Collective, is having an event coming up on Saturday. This is happening tomorrow. It is called Know Better, Do Better, the International Women's Day 2020 Immersive Conference. It's being organized by the Merit Collective. I believe it's being held at CG. General admission is available. You can see their information on merit.ca, marit.ca, which has information right on the homepage about the International Women's Day event. Click on the link, take you to an Eventbrite page. That will actually let you purchase tickets to get at that. It's general admission is $90 with a $6 fee. There's a pay it forward supporter ticket for $150. Subsidized admission is $30. And keynote event tickets, if you're just attending the keynote, is $10. This is taking place Saturday, March the 7th from 10 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Taking place at the Center for International Governance Innovation, or CG, which is at 67 Herb Street West in Waterloo. The event details read, we are excited to present our International Women's Day event for the 5th year in a row. We've expanded this year into a full-day conference, as well as bringing back our feminist vendor market. We celebrate International Women's Day yet again by using this platform to explore ideas on how we can all work to advance intersectional gender equity. And as always, the Merit Collective centers local voices with compelling discussion and nuanced examination of key issues. We uphold that practical focus on knowledge into action in offering the second year of our Know Better, Do Better conference, providing opportunities to gain insight and to deeply examine important concepts so that we can grow in our understanding as we push to improve our world. We invite you to join us for this day-long immersive conference with talks and breakout workshops on topics including a call to action in creating a more equitable world, gender-based challenges in the workforce, as well as equitable hiring practices, masculinity and advancing gender equity, reproductive justice, queen allyship, respectful parenting, sex worker allyship, caregiving through the lens of birth and death doula work, and working to strengthen diverse arts and culture in Waterloo region. Organized by the Merit Collective, who are at the corner of Park Street and Victoria in a location called The Causerie. The Merit Collective is a social organization, and The Causerie is located in a large grey building on Victoria Street South between Art House 150 and A Taste of Seoul, Korea. Look at them up online, merit.ca. Still in the studio with us, Aleksandra Petrovic and Peter Jantzi. Welcome to the Civic Hub. Thank you for having been here today. Any last words?
Thought I have is hearing again Merit Collective, their Causerie space, and how important Queen Street Commons is. I cannot wait to actually start mapping this universe in image, in words, in descriptions, in what it means to people. And yes, this is the last call for today. If you know of your third space or a space that you really like going to and being with other people, let us know. We will put it on a map.
Thank you, Aleksandra Petrovic. Thank you, Peter Jantzi. Thank you, Rene Sellier. Welcome to the Civic Hub is produced at the studios of CKMS FM 102.7 Radio Waterloo and airs Fridays from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. The show is sponsored by the Social Development Center of Waterloo Region, and the executive producer is Aleksandra Petrovic. My name is Bob Jonkman. Some funding for the Civic Hub is provided by Heritage Canada through community support, multiculturalism, and anti-racism initiative projects.